Okay, so Handmaid's Tale Season 3, Episode 3, Useful. I love the opening of this episode. It's very horrifying, and it works so well just having the opening credits play and hearing the ropes that are holding the Marthas that are hung just swinging in the wind. What a shocking opening to see them hung in front of June. And it adds a nice layer of mystery here, literally coming from June's narration, wondering if Cora is one of the people hung there, because they cover the faces. And really good writing here, with June talking about this being them hung for heresy, not for being in the resistance. This isn't also something where they're martyrs and this is giving inspiration. This is just completely tragic and sad. There's no escape here. There's no resistance now, she's saying. And just shows with June's situation, it's always one step forward, two steps back. So we get a narration here with June also saying, if I'm going to survive this, I'll need allies, allies with power. This is a nice setup to a payoff we will get in this episode where she teams up with Serena. So this episode on its own right works as one complete story, which I really appreciated. So we see the Martha now in the Lawrence household that's replacing Cora as Sienna. She always seems petrified, and rightfully so, because Lawrence is screaming at her for not looking clean enough and to pick up his mug. It's the last time I'm going to say this, but it still doesn't feel like the Lawrence from last season, but I'm going to leave that argument to rest now. I've accepted this is who he is, and they did further explain his character here. I just think it will never feel like the character we saw from Season 2, but I'm just going to move forward with it now. This is Commander Lawrence. This is what his character is about, and we'll get more into that. So we now see all these leaders of Gilead come to the Lawrence household. He likes them coming to him and not going out, but we see this reunion of Commander Waterford and June, and you see she's playing his soft spot again for her, saying to him that he was merciful, unlike Lawrence, and wants info on Lawrence. So she's playing her game, but basically all Waterford gives her is that Lawrence doesn't like to be bored. It seems like to me as well there's a strategy brewing in June's mind to start finding their weaknesses, learning as much as she can about them, and trying to eventually put places to pin them against each other. So we get a really good scene here where we see actually all of them now in their group meeting, and we see Nick is a commander. That happened quick, and is going to start making you really conflicted about Nick, which we'll get more into when he actually reunites with June later on. So we see they're talking about this fighting going on in Chicago, keeping Chicago and Gilead control, and they're talking about punishing one commander referred to as terrorists, and that these women should be sent to something worse than the colonies. And they discuss the value of women, the value of gender. And Lawrence sets up, offered to be in the middle of this. Really awkward, asked her to get one of his books, The Descent of Man by Charles Darwin. And this actually gives you a big hint into the mindset of Commander Lawrence. What was also interesting is you see all his books that he's written on the shelf. Definitely screenshot that or pause it and look back at that. He had books like Problematic Populism, The Brinks of Extinction. And I think what they're showing us is that Commander Lawrence is the opposite side of the coin to a Commander Waterford, where Commander Waterford is this more religious-based, would be conservative type leader who's anti-woman, but Lawrence is like, oh, he's the liberal man who's science-based, but he's a nut too because it's still anti-woman, but he uses different justifications. He's based off science, and if you look at the book The Descent of Man and Google about it, it does have a lot of sexist beliefs rooted in Darwin's belief in his scientific justification. So this is kind of where Lawrence's mindset comes from, and it makes complete sense that they casted the dad from Get Out for this role for Commander Lawrence, because it's a similar type of role where you're meant to first like him, think he's trustworthy, but showing you he's just as bad. And he totally humiliates Waterford here, especially ending this saying, see, woman can be useful. It's so psychotic, and it's just a weird way to talk about women, just so animalistic. And I love this shot of June just in pure rage here, totally angry now, just lighting a fire in her, with one of my favorite themes from the show playing in the background we haven't heard in a bit. So let's now jump to the Serena Joy story. And it was totally out of left field. We get to meet her mom, and I thought that was an awesome choice. It is a smart choice on the writers to give us more sympathy for a totally hateable character in Serena Joy, is to show us how cool her mom is. And it's a nice change of scenery too. I love this area they're in with the ocean. The mom's got it made here. And Rita's now working there, and we see that Serena gets her manipulative ways from her mother, and where this is all rooting from, and the mom's literally dressing her up as like a puppet to show her off to her friends. She's controlling. She lets into all her friends about the struggles in Serena's marriage and wants to make sure she stays with Fred. It's overbearing, just like Serena Joy naturally can be. We get a nice moment here where Rita makes a finger brace that's similar to the hand glove Serena Joy would wear in previous seasons that covers up her injured finger. And it's a nice little touch to just again show Serena who's really on her side. And it is a woman and is not a man like her husband who took that finger off. And now when she goes to this prayer circle her mom started with her friends, they ask Serena Joy if she needs any help. She goes in the middle. They start praying for her, and it's originally about what she'd want to pray for, about losing her child, about all the struggles in her mind. But then it quickly shifts to them praying about Fred and that she'll submit to her husband. And this shocks her because she didn't know her mom told all these people that, and sees now what the real motivations were. And it also shocks her because it's starting to show the hypocrisy and lunacy in her own religion and her beliefs. And they show this, the cinematographer, again, perfectly by blurring right around Serena's face when this starts happening and she starts getting this wake-up call and getting anxious. And I love how it cuts to Fred just in Jezebel's here, and you get the big hint he's there because of the lighting, those purplish pink tones. And his sorry speech to Serena, he's practicing to a woman he's sleeping with, cheating on her, and it's a prostitute. And he says, if I lose you, I will lose everything. So clearly Fred is not going to take well Serena leaving him, and I'm thinking that he will obviously use his religious cards to try to get her killed for leaving her husband. So now we cut to June going to Commander Lawrence's office, and she's now got the same plan in her mind that she would use on Waterford, kind of using some sexual techniques to get what she wants. She says she's not proud of it, but this is what she has to do in her narration, which I thought really worked well. I love when they do June's narration, getting us into her head. I think that's where Handmaids is at its strongest. And let me tell you, I was so relieved when Lawrence did not fall for it, did not go for it. If he started kissing June, I would have just felt like it was way too repetitive, because we've already seen that show with Waterford. So it was a breath of fresh air to see he reads right through it. That's not his game. I love Commander Lawrence brings up how much June owned the Waterfords, literally leaving their house in ashes, and acknowledges that she is very calculating and thinks it's silly they couldn't see that about her. And this is now the best scene of the season for me so far, and really good writing, delving us into June and Lawrence's relationship and what Lawrence is really all about, and kind of confronts my issues with Lawrence and how they're kind of wishy-washy about his character and what they want it to be. But June says, I think you might try to do the right thing, because she saw him save Emily. And he says, I helped Emily because she is unnaturally smart and could be useful to the world one day. So this is also a very sexist statement, saying unnaturally smart, like it's weird for a woman to be that smart. I just don't think this is the most convincing explanation for why he helped Emily and is so cruel to others, but so be it. But this is where it gets good and convincing, where he does say, I think I care about your daughter more than you do. I'm saving the planet for her, replenishing the human race. So I really like this because now it's showing his justifications for what he does, why he thinks he's doing what is right. And June says, I'm trying to do what I think is right, and that's just being a mother to my child. And Lawrence hits her with a huge burn and says, she has a mother. She's a lovely woman. She never stole anyone's husband. Wow. That's a deep cut there. And then he's not even done. He says, you focused more on your books than picking up your sixth kid from school. What did you ever do to help anybody? Mackenzie helped orphans in Africa. So, you know, it reminds us of our hero's grayness a bit here, and that she's not so innocent as well. And there is some hypocrisy in her life. So it just makes her more human, which I appreciate, and makes Lawrence not this total evil villain, that he's just a insane realist, if that makes any sense. But June is going to get the W here. She says back to him, you're the one who wrote the esoteric books. Must be scary seeing those names executed be real people now because of your writings. And it must be hell being a man like that, worse than being useless. And you could see by the expression on Lawrence's face, she's nailing it and hitting that weak spot of his. And that he would just do good deeds to help certain people to be able to sleep at night. And that's why he's holed up in his house. And what this writing does so brilliantly for Lawrence's character is it really kind of shows him as a guy who's just obsessed with the idea of the ends justify the means. He reminds me of Thanos from Avengers, where he has an idea that is really just terrible and does bad things and is not the way to go about something, but he thinks he's doing the right solution. So I like that they're giving him more layered complications as a villain and what he's thinking to make you think, okay, well, he actually isn't just a insane psychopath like Commander Waterford, who he's just using religion as his excuse, but really just wants to treat people terribly and get what he wants, where Lawrence has a spot June is trying to get to where there is some good deep down there. She just has to make him see it. And it really hits well of this guy who wrote all these books that I don't even think he realized would come to light, and that there would actually be people that got so obsessed with his readings and made the world what he thought it should be. And I think that's a shock to him, and maybe, again, you see he doesn't agree the whole way they went about it, so he's kind of just trying to ignore that part of it, and it's eating him up. And that's where June's making her attack, which is very smart. So we see from this, Lawrence is kind of also impressed by June. So I think there's an end game with him, that he sees June as someone he can use and quote unquote be useful for his needs, and that she could be a little bit more powerful. Again, selfishly, so that he can get what he wants, but nonetheless, he respects June in ways that he won't admit sometimes. And he brings her now to where they're holding women like cattle that are going to be sent to the colonies. Says she can pick 5 to be Martha's. Puts her on the spot, and even cruelly says that, what if you don't pick 5? What if I was to tell you they're all just going to go to the colonies then? So June at first does the right thing because she's not succumbing to this, and pins it back at him like, no, don't put this on me. You're the one who's causing them all to die. So we'll get more into that towards the end of the episode. So Serena now confronts her mom about telling all her friends about Fred and her personal business. And her mom just slams her hard here, saying, you have no meaning in this world without Fred, which is just cruel for mother to say to her daughter. So again, this is trying to build you up any kind of sympathy for Serena Joy. And she's just saying the truth here, where she's like, you gave that baby away. It's not even yours, so why are you feeling self-pity? Harsh, but so true. And that kind of takes a step back where you're still like, oh yeah, Serena Joy sucks. But she needs to hear that, because for Serena Joy to change and really see the other side of things, she has to realize how much she's done wrong. So now hotshot Commander Nick comes and visits June to say his last goodbye, because this might possibly be the last time he sees her, knowing he says he's going to be in the front lines and fighting in Chicago. But look, June's like, you're commander now, you can get Hannah and get me out of here. And then he goes, what's wrong with Commander Lawrence? And this just shows and confirms that Nick's problem is he is just a chicken. As much as he's always wanted to help June and has good intentions, he is still always looking out for his back over anyone else's, period. And she's like, can you do anything? What are you good for? And this shows an important line for June, because it reminds me also of Luke, and that the 2 men in her life who should be caring about her the most still freeze up. And this is a call to woman to get this done, because the men that should be helping aren't doing anything. I thought that was set up well here. And he's like, I want to say goodbye, and she's just like, bye. But it made sense for the character to go back out in June and realize she still loves this man. They had a child together, and this might be the last time she sees him. So they have some boning that happens, and it's some quick makeup sex. Some people might get pissed she did that, but at the same time, it makes complete sense for her character. You can't also just wipe away love you have for someone. So now we get the big moment here where Serena Joy comes to June, and we're going to get this team up. Unfortunately, I just, again, wish the trailers didn't show so much, and the trailers showing that they would get on the same side really sucks, because it took away this big reveal of her finally going there. So they bond over the baby, and Serena finally says, she isn't mine. And then June says, Serena, only a mother could do what you did. Now, if you could just think about all the mothers who lost a child like you did, and Serena's like you? So this is big for June, especially to hear that finally out of Serena's mouth. Something she tried to convince her of for so long. And June's like, we can help each other. They're not on our side. You're scared, Serena. Use it. Maybe we're stronger than we think we are. Excellent writing. Elisabeth Moss kills this. Her delivery of that was excellent. Here's the hope that everyone's been clamoring for. And it's not overdone either. It was kind of just dropped in here at the end. You see her looking out the window and it's all bright and sunny, so it was nice. It wasn't like the show completely converted to something completely happy. It's just giving you a nice drop of it. I don't want the show to lose touch of what it's really about either. You don't want the show to go into full hopeful mode, because then it just will feel like a different show you're watching. So it's nice that they're tiptoeing into it. What is interesting, though, about June's character is what she really thinks of Nicole, and why she let the baby be named Nicole, and her line saying to Serena, only a mother would do what you did. So it's kind of like a shared motherhood they've accepted, and I think it's smart that June's consciously deciding to go that way. A, because it will help get Serena on her side and get to Serena's head, and B, to just try to make the best of the situation they had, and that maybe Serena can be a good mom for this little girl, Nicole, one day. And is accepting that, because this is the harsh realities of the world they are in now. So June does a really cool thing here. Gives Lawrence her 5 Martha's Fur that she's going to use for resistance, and says one's an engineer, one's an IT tech, one's a lawyer, one's a journalist, and one's a thief. Sounds like something out of a heist movie, and I love it. She got every important skill you need for a resistance, so she's really thinking smart and being aggressive here. And there's a nice throw she has to her mom saying, "You wanted a woman's culture, now there is one. It isn't what you meant, but it exists." So hippie mom got some things right in her eyes now, and I like that she's starting to see that. And a great narration here at the end. We watch the men, we study them, we feed them, we make them feel good, but we know their worst nightmares, and with a bit of practice, that's what will become, nightmares. When we are ready, we are coming for you, just wait. So that's a great way to end this batch of 3 episodes here to get people excited for the next week's episode and give you a feeling of war coming about. It was awesome. Shout out to Yaleen Chang, who wrote this episode. She did a hell of a job addressing complicated characters in Lawrence and Serena Joy and convincing you of where their characters are going now. This is an extremely important episode moving forward. It's not the most entertaining one, but if anything, it gives the show a fresh outlook now, sets the stage for where we're going, and I'm sure will lead to many rewards later on. It was still slow here and there as well, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm gonna give this one a 9.1. Let me know what you thought of it down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment and try to respond as many as I can. Please check out my interview I did with the creator, showrunner, and writer of the show, Bruce Miller. We talk about these 3 episodes that just aired and what's to come, so you don't want to miss that. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss one of my reviews of The Handmaid's Tale, and please follow me at SteveVarley1 on Twitter and Instagram for more of me, and I'll see you next time.